thevoicebeforethevoid.net. Serious Reading, from How to Live on 24 Hours a Day, by Arnold Bennett. Novels are excluded from serious reading, so that the man who, bent on self-improvement, has been deciding to devote 90 minutes 3 times a week to a complete study of the works of Charles Dickens will be well advised to alter his plans. The reason is not that novels are not serious. Some of the great literature of the world is in the form of prose fiction. The reason is that bad novels ought not to be read, and that good novels never demand any appreciable mental application on the part of the reader. It is only the bad parts of Meredith's novels that are difficult. A good novel rushes you forward like a skiff down a stream, and you arrive at the end, perhaps breathless, but unexhausted. The best novels involve the least strain. Now, in the cultivation of the mind, one of the most important factors is precisely the feeling of strain, of difficulty, of a task which one part of you is anxious to achieve and another part of you is anxious to shirk. And that feeling cannot be got in facing a novel. Do not set your teeth in order to read Anna Karenina. Therefore, though you should read novels, you should not read them in those 90 minutes. Imaginative poetry produces a far greater mental strain than novels. It produces probably the severest strain of any form of literature. It is the highest form of literature. It yields the highest form of pleasure, and teaches the highest form of wisdom. In a word, there is nothing to compare with it. I say this with sad consciousness of the fact that the majority of people do not read poetry. I am persuaded that many excellent persons, if they were confronted with the alternatives of reading Paradise Lost and going round Trafalgar Square at noonday on their knees in sackcloth, would choose the ordeal of public ridicule. Still, I will never cease advising my friends and enemies to read poetry before anything. If poetry is what is called a sealed book to you, begin by reading Hazlitt's famous essay on the nature of poetry in general. It is the best thing of its kind in English, and no one who has read it can possibly be under the misapprehension that poetry is a medieval torture, or a mad elephant, or a gun that will go off by itself and kill at 40 paces. Indeed, it is difficult to imagine the mental state of the man who, after reading Hazlitt's essay, is not urgently desirous of reading some poetry before his next meal. If the essay so inspires you, I would suggest that you make a commencement with purely narrative poetry. There is an infinitely finer English novel, written by a woman, than anything by George Eliot, or the Brontes, or even Jane Austen, which perhaps you have not read. Its title is Aurora Leigh, and its author, E.B. Browning. Elizabeth Barrett Browning, yeah. It happens to be written in verse, and to contain a considerable amount of genuinely fine poetry. Decide to read that book through, even if you die for it. Forget that it is fine poetry. Read it simply for the story and the social ideas. And when you have done, ask yourself honestly whether you still dislike poetry. I have known more than one person to whom Aurora Leigh has been the means of proving that in assuming they hated poetry, they were entirely mistaken. Of course, if, after Hazlitt, and such an experiment made in the light of Hazlitt, you are finally assured that there is something in you which is antagonistic to poetry, you must be content with history or philosophy. I shall regret it, yet not inconsolably. The Decline and Fall is not to be named in the same day with Paradise Lost, but it is a vastly pretty thing. And Herbert Spencer's First Principles simply laughs at the claims of poetry and refuses to be accepted as aught but the most majestic product of any human mind. I do not suggest that either of these works is suitable for a tyro in mental strains, but I see no reason why any man of average intelligence should not, after a year of continuous reading, be fit to assault the supreme masterpieces of history or philosophy. The great convenience of masterpieces is that they are so astonishingly lucid. I suggest no particular work as a start. The attempt would be futile in the space of my command. But I have 2 general suggestions of a certain importance. The first is to define the direction and scope of your efforts. Choose a limited period, or a limited subject, or a single author. Say to yourself, I will know something about the French Revolution, or the rise of railways, or the works of John Keats. And during a given period, to be settled beforehand, confine yourself to your choice. There is much pleasure to be derived from being a specialist. The second suggestion is to think as well as to read. I know people who read, and for all the good it does them, they might just as well cut bread and butter. They take to reading as better men take to drink. They fly through the shires of literature on a motor car, their sole object being motion. They will tell you how many books they have read in a year. Unless you give at least 45 minutes to careful, fatiguing reflection, it is an awful bore at first, upon what you are reading, your 90 minutes of a night are chiefly wasted. This means that your pace will be slow. Never mind. Forget the goal. Think only of the surrounding country. And after a period, perhaps when you least expect it, you will suddenly find yourself in a lovely town on a hill. Yeah. It's this whole book. Yeah, How to Live on... That's like I was mentioning before. It was written for these people you see like working, their office jobs every day and going home and...
Well, I don't agree with his opinion about novels, but I do agree. I mean, poetry is... Yeah. There's some things you just can't beat. I mean...
Yeah.
Maybe a week ago, I reread for the 1000th time or something, Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven.
Yeah.
And every time it's like, my God, so good.
Yeah.
Like everything you shiver at it,
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't disagree with him about poetry. I do disagree that I don't think novels are at all a waste of time. But, because I think there's more truth in fiction often, but and every history book is fiction. So, someone's fiction.
It's a perspective.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah.
So, but I can't disagree that poetry is wonderful.
Yeah, that's what I really like about it. I was just on poetry. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think to me, if I was advising someone, I would say a mix of everything. You have to read. Nonfiction, fiction, poetry, everything, It's like food, you have to have to get your full nutrition, you need a wide variety.
Well, the thing is, that piece comes in the context, that's near the end of the book, where he's been describing a program of self-improvement. Okay. So that's where he's talking about this 90 minutes, 3 times a week. So what he's saying is that if you're going to read for self-improvement, then that's his recommendation.
Well, and the part that occurred to me when he was saying novels are easy to get through, not all of them. Some of them are hard. I mean, I've tried to read War and Peace twice.
Really?
And just, my God, it's hard to read.
Really?
Yeah, I find it really hard to read.
Oh.
So there's some things that I think, especially if they don't just call to you or appeal to you, you want to read them because they're obviously important works, but it doesn't mean that they're not hard.
No, yeah, I find the novels I really like, the best ones are ones that force reflection.
Yeah. I like that Virginia Woolf one I finished. I mean, I read it because it seemed like a book that should be read, but it's not like, I don't know, I wouldn't say I enjoyed it necessarily, So I don't totally disagree with him about, some things you read because it just gives you a different perspective.
Yep.
But it isn't necessarily enjoyable. I don't know. I mean, I usually force myself to finish something unless it's just it's bad writing. If it's bad writing, I don't, But just because I'm not loving it, I still usually make myself, especially if it's someone famous, because you're a good author. There must be something in it.
Right, exactly.
You know.
Yep. Yeah, if others found value, then there's...
Yeah.
It's worth at least being familiar with. Yeah, this Arnold Bennett.
Yeah, I never heard of him.
Yeah, he wrote a lot. He's best known as a novelist.
Interesting.
Yeah.
He says that about novels. He's best known as a novelist.
Right.
Well, also the authors he did mention, I've read a lot of.
Yeah.
Dickens, Jane Austen. I've read every single thing she's done.
Oh, yeah.
I love Jane Austen. Bronte sisters. I mean,
Yeah.
I've read most of what they've done. Not all of it, but most of the more famous ones, at least. Oh, Elizabeth Barrett Browning. I mean,
Yeah.
her stuff too.
Have you read that novel?
No, I don't think I've read that one. I have a book of poetry by her, but that's not that. At this moment, I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's not.
Oh, probably Sonnets from the Portuguese.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So I'll have to go and read that one. Because Sonnets from the Portuguese is incredible.
Yeah, she's one of the best.
Yeah. Yeah. Although my favorite poet is E.E. Cummings.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Have you read Auden?
Yeah, what he did, isn't his stuff mainly about nature, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't know. Whatever it seems like it's about a lot of stuff.
Okay. I know I've read stuff by him. I can't remember, but it just, in my mind, I'm thinking what I read by him was very much like odes to nature, kind of.
Oh.
Like at least what I read.
Yeah, I got a collection of his and I was just floored. Yeah. Fine poetry. And, with like real, like emotional weight and interesting.
Yeah.
I think he's one of my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why that just made me think, in A Movable Feast, Hemingway talks so bad about Ezra Pound. If you ever read Ezra Pound's stuff, it's good. So I'm like, he talks terrible.
Oh, well.
Terrible.
We have our tastes.
Yeah. It's just funny.
Do you know him personally?
Oh, yeah.
Probably, yeah. So
yeah.
That's, So does he talk poorly about Pound himself or about his work?
Both.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sure the one influences.
Yeah. He dislikes him and his works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas he talks good about, a female author that I'm trying to, who was a lesbian.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, there's of course several. I'm trying to think. It's the famous one.
That would have been a contemporary of his.
Right. Yeah.
Left my brain, but yeah.
Yeah.
He liked her. And I mean, today it would come across really bad, politically speaking. But he basically then reiterates what she told him. And what she had told him as a lesbian was it's completely natural for two women to have sex. For two men to have sex, that's disgusting. And so he reiterates that, which is, of course, nonsense. But it was interesting that his viewpoint on that was because a lesbian told him that. So it was like she was speaking for all.
Right.
And he ran with it or something. Sure. And so he repeats it in there.
Well,
Yeah. The indication is also because it was anal, maybe. So
sodomy,
so it just it was so clearly not natural or something,
right,
So it's just funny to read it,
Yeah, we love it when stuff confirms our biases.
Right.
Yeah,
right. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We all do.
Have you read Stephen Crane?